it, I'm the hottest around. They'll know it when they see you rolling them Impalas around
I
it.
got a soldier.
With the top down, feeling the sounds quaking and vibrating your thighs. Riding harder than guys with the chrome wheels at the bottom, white leather inside. When them lanes be spitting at you, tell them don't even try to shoot at Michelle and kick it with Kelly or holler at B. You gotta be G's, you way out of your league.
We like them boys that be in them legs leaning, open them out, they grill gleaming, candy paint, keep that whip cleaning. They always be talking that country slang. We like that beat in the back beating. I see so low from that chiefin'. I love how he keep my body screaming. A rude boy that's good to me with street credibility. If his status ain't hood, I ain't checking for him. Better be street if you're looking at me. I need a soldier that ain't scared to stand up for me. Known to carry big things if you know what I mean. If his status ain't hood, I ain't checking for him. Better be street if you're looking at me. I need a
Good evening. We're going to start the January 14th regular school committee, 7 o'clock. The mayor has a previous engagement, so I, John Swanson, will be running the meeting tonight. We have a full school committee. As always, we will be recorded by and broadcast by Peabody Public TV. Those that wish to participate in the public participation can join us here in the Higgins Library or via the Zoom meeting that is published at the Peabody Public Schools website. Tonight's meeting will be recorded by Laura Bowe, our recording secretary. With that, I'd like to commence the meeting with a moment of silence and then right into Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. If you don't mind, we're going to start out of order. Any objection? No. With that, We'll roll to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. So we have some special guests here tonight, so I appreciate going out of order. We can get them right on. We have our student advisory group tonight from Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. I'd like to thank, we have a new advisor, Ms. Barkley, for taking on the role of advisor. She's doing a great job. We have a wonderful presentation, and we will be welcoming 4 students here tonight and to come up and sit down and do our presentation. So feel free to come right on up and please introduce yourselves. I know some of you are very familiar to the committee, but we do have some new faces, which is great. And we'd love to hear about what's going on at Peabody High School.
Yeah, if you don't mind, as you know, Kathleen, you know, start the push the meeting, push the button, start the. If you don't mind introducing yourselves, we have some new members here, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yana Felizmino.
I am Catherine Kresma.
I'm Maria D'Souza.
I'm Rylan LeMay.
And we are the Student Advisory Council for the PVMHS school.
Tonight we will be talking about highlights and going on at PH at the high school, items to follow up on from the last meeting, looking at priorities for this school year and beyond.
So we are almost at the end of the first semester. Midterms are coming up. The winter sports season is underway with basketball. We have boys freshmen, we have boys JV, we have boys varsity, and girls JV and girls varsity. For gymnastics, we have varsity, ice hockey, boys and girls varsity, indoor track varsity, swimming and diving varsity, and wrestling boys varsity. Oh, and the overall record for winter athletics has been 35-15-1, and our wrestling team that is undefeated 9-0.
Some more highlights and going-ons. Monthly grade level meeting with ADME and class officers are continue. Freshman and sophomore seminar will be in February 28th. The Jean Apollo Expressions, a Haitian dance company, will be performing the words, language, and ELL students at the PVMHS in March during Words Language Week. Thank you to a Peabody Education Founder Grant. Fundraising is a key focus at the grade levels. Student Council is working on it with the Korea Club to plan a second Spear Week in March. And there's a link to all the PVMHS clubs running this year.
Items to follow up on from our last meeting. You guys may remember that we were talking about the possible e-payments for classes and other administrations at the school for our students and our staff. And we're following up on the plan to improve student bathrooms at PVMHS. Following up on reports of broken locks, replacing mirrors, and possible air fresheners that could be implemented into our bathroom system. Looking at priorities for this school year and beyond, students who have concerned about the facilities, they would like to request a meeting with the principal, the custodial staff, and the new facilities team. We've talked to the principal briefly about our bathrooms and other facilities at PVMHS, but would like to broaden our horizons to a possible future with our facilities team and others. Questions, comments, concerns?
Great. Thank you so much for that. And I think there's a lot of great things going on at the high school that you've all highlighted. Very exciting. Some of the things that are happening, that Peabody Education Grant sounds really exciting. And I think this meeting will be great. You may not know, but the committee has met the new facilities director. He is very responsive, and we're really excited about the work he's going to do. So I think this last bit of you meeting with him and touring the building, he's been very responsive. He used to work at North Shore Community College, and he had the different campuses in Lynn and Peabody, and in Lynn and Danvers, and he was able to do a really good job there. And now we're welcoming him to Peabody, and he's really done a great job with the center school and some of the other buildings that we've had. So I think you'll enjoy meeting meeting with him, and I think that's a really good thing, and we look forward to hearing more about that in the next time that you come. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Any comments, questions for the students? Ms. Dunn.
Thanks for coming tonight and talking with us. And I do want to reiterate what the superintendent said. You will have a wonderful meeting with the new facilities director. Mr. Politano is very responsive and really interested in making things better. He's got lists. He jumped right into his duties, and it'll be a good meeting for you to talk to him. He actually has heard about the things you brought to us before about the mirror and, the mirrors and the air fresheners and everything. So he's probably looking into it, but you can well imagine that as he started, his list is probably 3 miles long, seriously, but he listens. And he gets it right away, and he's really nice to talk to. So I wish you good luck with that. It'll be a good meeting for you. It will. And one other question: where is the semi? Do you know where you're having it yet?
Is it February 20th?
It's the Knights of Columbus.
It's the Night at the Night of Columbus.
Oh, very good. Perfect.
February 20th.
Yeah, it's like February. Yeah, they're having their meetings right like now to figure out themes and stuff. I just have a question on basic facilities practices. Is there a team that specifically works on the schools and school buildings in our district, or is it just is it anything facilities in the city?
That's a great question. And a few years ago, the city decided to hire a facilities director that would oversee all city buildings. And so it kind of helps to make things consistent across the entire city. And then each school has their own staff of custodians. And then the district has maintenance staff. So think of the trades, like, the kids that go to Essex Tech, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, things like that. We have tradesmen who are licensed in those areas, and they also work for the city, and they go to the schools as needed. So you'll have the custodian staff is sort of your staff, the first round, and if we need anything beyond that, we have the maintenance crew, and we have a city director, and that's who I'd like you to meet with, is the city director, so that they can really talk about a strategic plan for the high school and how they can meet the needs of you and all of your fellow students and the staff there.
And one more separate question. Is it one facilities manager or facilities team with a sort of head for the facilities department?
Yeah, I think they have about 60 employees. So there's one director, an assistant director, and then they've worked on the organizational structure. So they have 4-person for each of the trades, and someone who oversees the custodians. And then each school has a team of custodians, and then each city building also has their team of custodians as well. And then they have some staff that floats between the buildings and goes. So it's a pretty comprehensive department. But there is one director that reports to the mayor, and we work closely with them.
Thank you so much.
Great question.
Absolutely, good question. Anybody else before? So quick question for you, Dr. Vidala. Have you had, is a meeting scheduled with the facilities department, or is that something that has to be facilitated?
So that's something that we'll work on. They've met with Ms. Randall, but they wanted to bring it tonight. We talked a little bit today, and we'll be setting up that meeting for them in the coming weeks.
Awesome, I appreciate that.
Great.
Thank you. Secondly, on the e-payments, we've talked several times about that. Where does that stand on the e-payments? We know that the boosters have that, but we've had a few conversations, and I honestly don't remember where we left.
Yes, I know booster groups have different rules than the city. I could ask Mr. Rippon. I know you've had conversations with the city about whether it's okay for us to have e-payments. I forget where we landed on that.
I think the challenge there is we have a relationship with My School Bucks. I think the students are aware of that, where we collect our Chromebook fees, our transportation athletic fees, and for school, for a la carte school lunch. The challenge that we really haven't been able to reconcile is that with students want to be able to have an app on their phone to effectively have a QR code, and the concern is having the internal controls in place. So I've had initial discussions with the city treasurer, but we haven't been able to nail that down. I'll revisit it, but that seems to be the concern because, again, I think what students want is if you're having a fundraiser, and I get it, people don't do cash. They do Venmo, they do Zelle, they do Apple Pay, and again, the only way that lends itself is to try to have a unique, and each fundraiser is unique, or each organization is unique, and that's what we're trying to get our head around, for lack of a better way. So I'll revisit again, but there didn't seem to be a way to do it and ensure that, whether something be hacked or the money go the wrong place, who would be the responsible person, that's what we're still trying to get our arms around.
Excuse me.
Mr. Rippon, thank you very much for that, and that does jog our memory of the controls are a major issue for it. But I think this is something that I would like to have, and I know you will, continue the conversations on, because, yeah, as you're aware, as you noted, we're moving away from cash. I can guarantee we're losing some of the fundraising because people don't have cash in the school. Some parents don't transition cash between students and the fundraising parties. But to Mr. Rippon's part, I think one of the things we have to work through, and we're going to keep this on in conversation, is that for your knowledge, is as a governed body, as a school system, as a city, there's a lot of diligence that has to be done, a lot of controls that have to be put in place. And that's the hardest part, is how do we separate the senior class from the junior class, and all that money coming into a system and a tool that is going to be hard for us, but we will keep on top of that and make sure that we're able to move forward. And I think a big part of it is moving into the 21st century. So, sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah, do you mind if I ask a question to anybody who knows this? Is there any statutes that are physically avoiding e-payments for being put into schools? Like any practices that we'd be actually stepping over a law or some sort of things like that? Because I remember we talked briefly about it a couple of meetings ago, but I just didn't remember if that was, I couldn't remember what it actually was that was the hurdle.
Absolutely. Mr. Miko, you like?
Yeah, and thank you, through the chair, thank you for bringing this up. I don't know of any laws or statutes that this would fall under, but I do think we should probably move this to Ms. Dunn, through the chair. I really think we need a policy. This has been ongoing for, I would say, 6 or 7 years now, that we've talked about some kind of a money system. So through the chair, if you wouldn't mind, Ms. Dunn, if we could put it through your quality and standards subcommittee, I do think we can see if we can find a precedent that might be set somewhere else in a school district, and if not, we can even include the city financial department, maybe the Secretary of State Department. They may have something in there, because these students are trying to raise funds for activities, and nobody carries cash. It's one of those things where sadly, we've become a cashless system in many cases, especially with the younger groups, Apple Pay and all this other stuff. I still carry cash. Maybe I shouldn't say that publicly, but whatever. I don't think I'm in trouble. But I do think we should come up with something, and if not, at least have some answers. And I think this has been ongoing. So if we could, I'd like to make a motion to move it to Ms. Dunn's Quality and Standards Subcommittee. Let's get some information, and let's see if we can work with this young group of students who obviously are looking to do the right thing and raise funds for their fellow students and classmates.
Thank you. Heard the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Heard the motion made by Mr. Miko, second by Ms. Dunn. Do we need a vote? A roll call? We do need a roll call. Thank you. Roll call vote, please. All right. Sorry. I'm going to open it up for any comment before.
Well, actually, I do have there are laws that govern it. Each of your classes, plus probably student council, needs a student activity fund, an account. It goes into an umbrella student activity fund, which is an accounting of every student activity in the district. Those are governed by state law, and there are rules that govern how those funds would be distributed after you graduate, if there's any money left over for your class, how that has to be given back. So they do have some rules. One of the problems with technology, law has not kept pace with technology, and you kids are ahead of the curve. But there are definitely ways to do this, to be able to let you accept, I'll say, online payments, and to be able to account for those, and we'll get those put in place because, yeah, you've brought this forward, I know, at least 3 years now, since you came on the committee, and I can tell it's getting to be more of an issue because more people are looking to pay online. And it's just because the protections put in by law to protect student money are very strict. They really are. Booster clubs, PTOs, they're separate. They are separate. But you folks are protected under very specific laws.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Catherine.
Sorry, I'm asking so many questions. I just have a question, because I had a question in the past about why boosters and PTOs are different. Are they different because they're run by parents and adults as opposed to students, and we under that umbrella because we're students, or is it a different way of doing things?
It is different. It isn't just that they're run by adults, because you have an adult advisor. It's just the way that those are handled in the district, because you are our responsibility. Your activities are our responsibility. The PTOs and the boosters work in conjunction with the schools, but they are not a part of the school structure. I mean, honestly, we couldn't do what we do without them. Thank goodness we have those groups, but they are in a different classification. So the student funding is protected by very specific state law. And I don't know if Mr. Rippon would have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I guess what I would add is they're separate entities. They have their own tax ID number. They do their own tax filing, where student activities are within the city of Peabody.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thank you for that clarification.
Absolutely. Ms. Dunn? Thank you. Mr. Hockman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing this up again. And Mr. Miko, you're absolutely right. It's time. I mean, we got to do something here, right? We got to get into the, I don't know what century we're in anymore, but we're quarter of the way through it, or a quarter of the way through it. But just a quick Google search while you were asking those questions. Apparently 87% of school districts in the Commonwealth accept electronic payments. We do too for certain things, like Mr. Rippon indicated earlier tonight. The problems that that come along with the questions that you're asking aren't whether or not we can accept electronic payments. It's an accounting problem. Right? Because unlike boosters and PTOs, where they have separate accounts for each booster organization or each PTO organization, we have one pot. And, you know, is the money being put in for the class of 27, for the class of 28, for the class of 29? And how is it that that's going to get segregated at some point for the appropriate class or organization that the money was intended to use? The laws that I think Ms. Dunn are talking about are there to protect charitable organizations or public entities, whether they're electronically paid or paid in any other manner. Boosters and PTOs, although they're separate organizations, also have a strict and stringent requirements and laws to follow, and the Attorney General generally is the one that you know, oversees that and takes care of or ensures compliance, and when there's not, issues penalties and things like that. So I think it's more of an accounting problem that we're facing, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Rippon, but it's something where some systems need to be developed, in my opinion, need to be developed where we're able to segregate the funds as they come in and divert them to different accounts so that the money goes where it's intended to go and is used by the appropriate group or class or whatever it is. And I think that's going to be the hard part of this, because there's just so many different, it's not like I'm going to Venmo you and you know it's coming from me and I know it's going to you. It's like Venmoing into, a group of 100 and who's getting that money, sort of thing. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
It does. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that great explanation, Mr. Hockman. Anybody else? All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a roll call vote?
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll get back to you shortly with some more answers.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you for having us here. Sorry for the questions, but I really enjoy coming here. Thank you so much.
As said in the previous meetings when you've been here, we enjoy the questions. It helps us know what you need. So don't apologize for your questions.
Yeah, you're
Don't
supposed
apologize.
to ask those
Yes,
questions.
agreed.
That is why you were elected. Absolutely.
You're representing your classmates in your school, so make sure that you'll hold us accountable. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Great, thank you. And if there's no objection, if we could just move to the next item on the superintendent's report, is about the high school graduation and about the requirements for high school graduation and the need for a policy moving forward. So I asked Mr. Quist, our guidance director, to come here as well. And I'd just like to give a little bit of an overview of some of the work that we've been doing together. And this goes to question 2 on the ballot that was in November of 2024. It eliminated MCAS as a graduation requirement. And although MCAS is no longer a graduation requirement, the statute or the state law does require students to satisfy requirements of what they call a competency determination, or CD, in order to graduate from high school, and that's part of our general laws. And previously, MCAS was the measure that measured the competency determination, and so by passing the test, you demonstrated that competence. And so now, students still have to earn the competency determination, but instead of the test, they have to, and it's in quotes, they have to satisfactorily complete coursework that has been certified by the district. So as a school district, we have to certify that the courses that our students take meet this determination. And so there's quite a bit of information in your packet tonight, but the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has put out a frequently asked questions document, and that's in our written communication tonight, and it provides some guidance for districts and school committees. And, I'd like to just kind of take a step back and say, when did we deal with this before? Because this isn't the first time we didn't have MCAS. And if we look back to 2020, the MCAS exams were canceled, and DESE provided guidance to us on which courses could be used to meet that competency determination. And so if we look at our local requirements, our high school graduation requirements in our course of study and in our student handbooks, 4 years of English, 3 years of social studies, including U.S. History 1 or 2, 3 years of mathematics, 2 years of science. The courses that we're requiring students to take should meet that competency. So, Mr. Quist has done some extensive research. He's looked at all of the other schools that, have responded, and this is something that all the schools in the Commonwealth are looking at. But we believe that all Peabody Public School students who complete the local graduation requirements will have completed coursework that is aligned with the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. So one of the recommendations from his documents that he sent us is to allow students in the class of 2025 to earn their diploma as long as they've met our local graduation requirements. So we would be able to issue students in the class of 2025, and that's our seniors. So even if they haven't passed MCAS, if they've passed the coursework and they meet the graduation requirements, we should be able to issue them a diploma. We will need a policy on this. And I'm not going to ask you to decide tonight, but I just wanted to give you some information, and Mr. Quist is here tonight as well to answer some questions. Additionally, any student who attended high school from 2003 to 2024 during the MCAS time, if they've met the local graduation requirements but did not pass MCAS, they earned a certificate of attainment or completion, and they didn't earn a diploma. Those students, retroactively, this law can go back and we could issue them, and we should issue them diplomas if they've earned it. And so we can set up a review process where students, we can put it out. Anybody from the class of 2003 to 2024 who met our local graduation requirements but did not pass MCAS, we can review their transcripts and we can issue them a diploma this spring. We will be allowed to do that under this new law. And what we'd like to do is develop a policy that recognizes the local graduation requirements as meeting the competency determination to earn a high school diploma. So there's a lot of information here. It should definitely lead to a rich discussion. We could certainly talk about this in the education subcommittee. I do think that the policy subcommittee, quality and standards, will be involved. And once we feel comfortable with that policy language, we could bring it back to the floor. But I wanted to bring it forth now because we're getting phone calls from students from the past and in recent years that would like a high school diploma because they met the local graduation requirements. Mr. Quist, if you'd like to come up, if I missed anything, please, feel free to add on to that. But I do think this is an opportunity for us to be able to reach out to some people and to issue diplomas. And there are some questions about, what happens with some of our students with special needs that are in substantially separate programs and the coursework that they take, making sure that that's aligned. Some of our students have the right to be educated till 22. We don't want to prevent that. We want to make sure that our students still get that free and appropriate public education, FAPE, as it's termed in special ed law. But we do want to make sure that there are students who took the right coursework, who passed the coursework, demonstrated the competency from our local graduation requirements, but didn't pass MCAS. And so we want the ability to do that. And I'll certainly open it up to questions and comments.
Thank you. Mr. Quist, you have a comment?
Just a couple quick things. DESE has come out with basically a three-pronged process, the first being what they call short-term, which is basically telling districts, you have to figure out what you're going to do with the class of 2025, and we're going to leave that up to you. They have what they call a medium-term outlook, and that's for the students that are current high school, not class of 2025, and they've indicated they'll be sending out information in regards to that as the year continues on. And then the long-term forecast is for those students that are not currently in grade 9, and from the way the things were written, it looks like by that point they expect to have something involved with the state legislature as far as looking at graduation requirement. So the short term is our members of the class of 2025, and also within their frequency asked question guideline is they are basically saying that districts have to look at those former students who met local graduation requirements from 2003 to 2024 who did not meet the MCAS scores. And going back as far as we can through our student management system, Aspen, and then by hand, we're able to go back to as far as 2007, and then 2003 to 4, 5, and 6, we had to actually go by hand. We've identified approximately 70 students who met local graduation requirements at the time who, for whatever reason, did not pass the MCAS, whether it was the ELA and or math up until 2010, or including science beginning in 2010 was the third one that was added. So we have approximately 70 former students. We actually had 5 students taking retests, former students, as recently as November. And unfortunately, with them, they all also needed the biology, and they're no longer allowed to even take the biology retest, which will be coming up in February. And the only other part is, although they eliminated it as a competency determination, they have indicated that students must take the MCAS, both ELA, math, and science, if they are not, if they do not transfer in. They transfer in as a grade 12 student. They do not, but all other students must take it at least once. And they will hold districts accountable on the participation rate, things that they have been doing historically.
Thank you for that, Mr. Quist. Mr. Miko.
Thank you through the chair. Mr. Quist, thank you for being here, and thank you for all your years of service. You're always here for us, and we lean on you for a lot when it comes to our academics and guidance. So through the chair, so do you believe what we have in place here are 4 years? I don't have it in front of me. Is it up there? The 4 years of English, 3 years of social studies, 3 years of mathematics, and 2 years of science. Do you think that, is that sufficient enough to fulfill our CD requirements?
Yes, it is, because even if you look back to 2020, when the state was struggling with MCAS, what they looked at was what were our graduation requirements, meaning us and all other schools. And these were, historically, our graduation requirements were, until the advent of MCAS, were what the district had voted on, agreed to, and put into our program of studies, as this was what you needed to do in order to be to graduate from the Peabody Public Schools. The one thing, a couple of minor things are missing up there, which include like wellness and things like that, but those are the major academic subjects.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Hockman, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, through the chair, Mr. Quist, thanks for being here again tonight. And as Mr. Miko said, thank you for being here for our kids every day. You do a great job, and I certainly appreciate it. You talked about going back to, or Dr. Vidal and you talked about going back to 2003 to identify kids that met the CD requirements for the district but didn't pass MCAS. Has DESE provided any additional funds to our district for our staff to do this work?
As they've done with a lot of different things, there's many unfunded mandates.
Yeah, okay. And then the state, from what I'm gathering, and most of this is rhetorical, the state, from what I'm gathering, is saying in so many words as we can't figure it out for 2025, so you guys figure it out. But after you figure it out for 2025, we're going to take back the authority and make determinations moving forward. So I don't appreciate, DESE throwing the ball at us saying, fix this, and then after we fix it, well, regardless of how we fix it, they're going to decide what they want to do in terms of graduation requirements thereafter. So that's my dig at the state. I know this is going to go into a couple of subcommittees, and I'm happy about that. Just while we have it on the floor, I'd like to just throw out an idea, particularly for 25, since I guess we get to do what we want to do, which will be interesting, and maybe it leads to the state realizing that they don't want local districts to always do what they want to do, and maybe they should make some uniform decisions in a timely manner. But do we, through the chair to Mr. Quist, do we have enough information regarding MCAS scores for the class of 2025? I mean, are there still kids who are in line to graduate in 25 that have not passed MCAS or have not met MCAS requirements if they still existed?
Prior to the ballot measure being passed and then ratified on December 5th, I think it was, we did have students who were taking retests for that, and also we had a number of students lined up to take it for the February retest. But what has happened since then, that's no longer, the state is saying that's no longer a thing that we need to do. It's based now on, the MCAS is no longer part of us determining competency determination. And just very quickly on the comment, when I passed on this information and Dr. Vidal and Dr. Chase and Dr. Higgins were putting it together, I kind of took it from the lens of class of 2025. A number of other districts currently are also putting in 2025 going forward on the assumption that if it has to change because the Department of Ed comes up with whatever it is they come up with, they'll deal with it at that point. I didn't take it from that lens, and in retrospect, we probably should be looking at it from going forward until such time as something is mandated otherwise.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Quist. I agree with that. Whatever policy we create should be something we expect to keep in place until the state decides to act. Well, I was asking about how many kids are, how many students, are still don't meet MCAS what would have been MCAS requirements for a diploma. They're going to get a diploma in 2025, whether they met MCAS requirements or not under the new law. But what maybe I'd like to see is making maybe an MCAS diploma, a diploma of a little more distinction. So we're going to offer 2 diplomas and maybe consider MCAS diplomas for students that have met the MCAS requirements, and high school diplomas from the Peabody Public Schools for students that haven't. It's just a thought that I'd like to throw out there, and we can talk about that in subcommittee. Yeah, thanks.
And Mr. Miko.
Thank you, through the chair, and thank you again, Mr. Quist. What I'd like to do is, because what we've heard here is, I think maybe at our next meeting, if we can, I think this was our first draft, maybe take a vote on it moving forward until the state does come up with something or DESE does come up with something. But in the meantime, what I'd like to do is to make sure that we try to, and it's going to be tough to contact all those students between 2003 and 2025 that under these new guidelines and the new, essentially new law here, that have met a graduation requirement but don't have a diploma. I think we need to utilize our digital resources, maybe Peabody TV, Salem News, the local Linfield Peabody newspaper, maybe put notices in there to let people know that, hey, you know, you have a high school diploma waiting for you now. Our city website, obviously our school website, and maybe contact organizations like Northeast Arc and other collaboratives that we have on the North Shore that could help us maybe contact some of those students who, you know, for no fault of their own, did not meet the MCAS requirement, but now fall under a graduation requirement under the new laws. So if we could do that, I'd like to make that an motion to utilize all our digital and all our contacts on the North Shore to get notices out to our students and families. So moved.
Second.
On the motion, I heard the motion made by Mr. Miko, second by Ms. Dunn. On the motion? Nope. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Dunn.
I just want to say thank you for coming up with a plan on how to give a diploma to our graduates this year and going back the past couple. And I know tonight we need to take a vote to reiterate our plan that if someone has passed our requirements, they will be getting a diploma this year. Now, how does it work with MCAS, though? Because I'm looking at some things here that say MCAS still figures into that.
So the MCAS can determine competency. In lieu of not passing MCAS, we can determine competency by passing our coursework, and we can certify that that student passed a class called geometry or algebra 2 or whatever it was, but didn't pass the MCAS. But we can certify that our course meets the competency determination, and therefore the student who passed all their classes for high school may earn a high school diploma.
Okay.
We don't have to vote tonight. I think we can work on the language and bring it back to the committee. I just wanted, we started getting questions about this. I wanted to talk about it publicly. I wanted you to know we've identified 70 students from 2003 to 2024, and that we have a plan, and we just want to make sure the language is good and that everybody agrees on it. Doesn't have to be a vote tonight. We can work on that. I can bring it back before you, but I just thought it was important to get this conversation out there, and if there's more questions, we can answer them before we take the official vote, and we'll come up with some good policy language that's vetted before we ask for a vote. So it's not timely that it needs to be done this evening, but we want it done in the next couple meetings, you know, say by March 1st, so that we're prepared for the spring.
Right, okay. Because our curriculum does meet all the criteria, and we have that authority to say we support our curriculum, and we support the students who followed through and completed it and passed the required courses. So I think that in itself is really a great step forward to be able to give people some assurance that they will be able to get a diploma. So, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Mr. Quist.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Quist.
Thanks, Mr. Quist.
I have 2 items left on the superintendent's report, but we can go back to the regular meeting and I can pick them up later.
Thank you. All right, excuse me. Returning to regular meeting. Meeting minutes, December 10th, 2024.
Motion to accept meeting minutes of 12/10/24.
Second.
I heard the motion made by Mr. Hockman, second by Mr. Miko. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Huckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Present.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, approval of bills. Mr. Olympio.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5904 in the amount of $93,820 dated January 14th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. Excuse me. You heard the motion made by Mr. Amico to accept warrant 5904, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. On the motion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Huckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Abstain.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5912 in the amount of $10,000 dated January 14th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
Excellent. Heard the motion made by Mr. Olympio to accept warrant 5912, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. On the motion, roll call vote.
Mr. Huckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5919 in the amount of $851.67 dated January 14th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
Excellent. Heard the motion made by Mr. Olympio, accept warrant 5919, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. On the motion, roll call vote.
Mr. Huckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5921 in the amount of $179,815.20 dated January 14th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
Heard the motion made by Mr. Olympio, accepting of warrant 5921, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. On the motion, roll call vote.
Mr. Huckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 5926 in the amount of $1,727,341.59 dated January 14th, 2025, subject to audit.
Second.
You have the motion to approve warrant 5926, made by Mr. Olympio, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. On the motion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Huckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Abstain.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, continued business. Peabody Veterans Memorial High School, MSBA project update. Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. We have a PVMHS School Building Committee meeting next week at Peabody Veterans Memorial High School. The meeting will consist of discussion about where we are in the process with the MSBA process, some of the things that are upcoming, and some of the things that we have completed, because there is a lot going on at the moment. We'll be going into, and we will also be discussing the topic of subcommittees that need to be formed to begin some of the work on the discussions and projects. So one of the things coming up is that the MSBA requires a meeting on enrollment. So the superintendent, the mayor, and I will be attending that meeting, and they will be discussing the numbers that have been submitted. Basically, your enrollment determines the size of the building, and the cost of the building is based on the size of the building, which is based on the size of your enrollment. So it's a very important meeting, and that's going to take place next week, 2 weeks, the 28th, that's right. And then come the first week of February, we will be having our first community meeting, which will be open to the public. All our meetings are open to the public, but this will be specifically for the public to come to the high school, to have a presentation about the project, to be able to meet the members of the school building committee and hear about their work and the process again. And then to have a small question and answer period where we can ask people, their thoughts, some ideas, and we want to make sure that we're including the public in this entire process. So that's what's going on with the high school project right now, and it's still pretty interesting.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Obviously picking up momentum now.
It is, yeah.
You guys, we're getting regular reports. All right, returning to item number 5, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Two quick items. The first one was just an update on the center school. Small update tonight, but a bigger update next week. I had a nice meeting with the facilities team today, and we talked about some of the work that's being completed. The building remains occupied by our integrated preschool, so that is continuing, and our new facilities team is working. They've been soliciting quotes, they've been meeting with vendors, and they're really developing a timeline and a schedule for the remainder. They have scheduled meetings with the procurement office and the finance department at City Hall to talk about making sure that they'll be under budget and making sure they have everything that they need. They are working on currently the library at the center school and kind of mocking it up and using that as sort of a test room for some of the work that they're doing. So we'll be planning to visit that soon and seeing that work. And right now we still anticipate that the building will be on timeline and complete prior to September 2025 and ready to be occupied in the full building. We conducted a parent survey, as I mentioned at the last meeting. That was distributed in December. We have the majority of responses in, but we do have a few more responses trickling in. I'll have those results for the committee at the next meeting. We did send out a teacher survey yesterday, have about half of the responses thus far, and we'll be able to get an idea of the teachers' decisions about if they would like to stay where they are or return to the center school. So we have that information coming in as well, and I'll be able to present that in our next meeting on January 28th, and we'll be able to have a discussion, and obviously I'll kick it out to the committee if there's any other information that you would like me to gather in preparation for our discussion. I will be able to do that, and I look forward to a rich discussion on the 28th. So,
excellent, thank you. Any questions for the superintendent? Great, thank you.
And the last item is actually very exciting. So one of the things that Ms. Dunn talked about in her report about the high school is that we have our design enrollment, and we are looking to increase the enrollment. We know some people will come back, but part of that, we submitted the education plan and the Chapter 74 viability pieces to MSBA, and what that means is we're looking to expand our career and technical programs in the new high school. And so as an interim step, we've been able to partner with the Peterson School, which is a trade school in one of their campuses is in Woburn, and they provide comprehensive training in the trades, and they do licensure and certification, make sure that people get hours in training, and this was brought to us as a partnership opportunity, and I want to give a lot of credit to Dr. Higgins for the work that he did on this, for our high school students to almost work as a dual enrollment process, and they will be earning credits for high school graduation while doing training and coursework towards licensure and certification in the trades. So we had a field trip for our PLA students to go to the Peterson School, and Mr. Tanglis and Dr. Higgins accompanied them, and we've identified 8 students from the PLA that could participate this spring. 6 students will be studying electrical, 2 students will be studying plumbing, and they'll be earning elective coursework towards graduation while earning their hours and their coursework in these 2 trades. And we're very excited about this, and this is a nice interim step to make sure that our students in Peabody that are unable to attend Essex Tech, and we don't offer these programs, here's sort of an answer to a short-term solution to that problem. We are able to fund this through Title IV, which is one of our federal entitlement grants for a well-rounded education. We set aside some money for consultants and things like that, and so this is a perfect expense for that. We'll be able to fund these kids, and they'll really have a great opportunity. And then we'll see if this is a pilot program. We'll see if it's successful, but we're very excited about the possibility for expansion in school year 25-26. So Dr. Higgins, did I miss anything over there? I know that you've been doing a lot of work in this area.
No, that was a great job. Mr. Tanglis and his staff did a nice job. I want to thank him and also Ms. Migliozzi. We did the field trip in December, and they've both done a great job supporting the students. And obviously thank the Peterson School. They've been very collaborative as well. So thank you.
Great. Any questions from the committee?
I got Ms. Dunn first.
Thank you. As far as the program goes, how long does the training take? Is it a semester? Well, you say they're starting in the spring, so is it a full semester just that coordinates with our calendar?
So the long term would be an 18-month program. So what we're doing is we're starting some kids that are looking to graduate, and basically it's almost like the fifth-year master's program where you can take some graduate courses in your undergrad and get a head start. Some of our kids who are graduating this year will get a head start on post-secondary training. So almost like dual enrollment when we have kids take courses from Salem State or a local college that would count as a graduation requirement for elective, but also get them a head start on college, right? So one pathway for our current seniors would be that it basically just gives them a head start towards an 18-month program. For juniors, it could give them an opportunity to complete all of these hours by high school graduation and earn an apprenticeship and be able to work with a journeyman electrician or something like that right out of high school. So similar to, we wouldn't be able to do as comprehensive as Essex Tech does just yet because we don't have the full program, but it'll give our kids a head start and work towards that. They'll still have to do some things after graduation, but this is sort of getting them as a step forward and moving down the pathway a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do the students get to the classes?
I believe they provide their own transportation. Yep. So with these kids, these 8 students are able to provide their own transportation, and that's part of the partnership. And they can go. It's 4 o'clock or later. They can do some work release and things like that. But for these students, it is on their own, and they would be providing their own transportation. And this is the pilot, so we've identified these 8 kids that are able to meet those requirements.
Okay. And then I know you said the cost is going to come through Title IV, but what is the actual cost per student to participate in the program?
I can send it to you. I want to say it was $2,500 ballpark, but I can definitely send that information to you.
Okay, thank you. And then how do they complete their academics during the day, and then they do this program in the afternoon and at night?
Yeah, so they would be at the PLA, until at least 12:30, and then they could get a job that would count for their internship hours, and the courses are 4 p.m. or later.
Okay, all right. And then, let's see. I think that's everything I had.
Thank you, and we can discuss as we go. It's an exciting partnership, and we'd love to bring some of the kids before the committee, some of our students before the committee, and talk about their experience and see if that this is something that we could expand moving forward.
Did we let Simon Youth Foundation know about this? Does the foundation know what's going on with the Learning Academy?
I believe Mr. Tanglis was. I'll have to confirm that with him because he had talked about. They also have similar either opportunities or grant funding, and so I know he had an initial conversation with them.
Yeah.
He was happy to come. Dr. Vidal just mentioned maybe he can come with a couple of the students to talk about this experience and also ideas moving forward. But he did talk about being in touch with them also.
Oh, good. Okay, because I know in the past they've stepped up and they have supported some programs, then they had to pull back. So I just wondered if they were involved in helping with this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any others for Dr. Dalla? No? Thank you very much.
Great. That concludes the superintendent's report for tonight.
Thank you. Item number 6, public participation. Anybody in the audience? Seeing none. Anybody online?
We do have a couple people listening online. If they would like to speak, they could raise their hand. Seeing none at this time.
All right, excellent. Moving on to written communications, we have 4. Competency determination proposal, which we reviewed earlier. Monthly student attendance report, monthly Bay State textile report, and Bay State textiles year-to-date report. We have motions to,
Motion to receive. All four.
Second.
thank you. Hear the motion to receive the written communications by Mrs. Dunn, second by Mr. Amico. On the motion, anybody opposed? All approve? Unanimous vote, thank you. Subcommittees, Education Subcommittee,
Nothing to report at this time.
thank you. Finance Subcommittee,
Yes, we met tonight with the teachers' union, Unit A, and we laid down the ground. We went over ground rules, and we scheduled 3 meetings for the near future, and we look forward to just a prosperous negotiation. Look forward to working with the teachers' union, and yeah, so I think we're off to a good start. Thank you.
excellent, thank you very much. School Safety Subcommittee report.
Yes, I yield to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mr. Olympio. As you all heard from the notice we received, the State Senate passed House Bill 4940, which is our stop arm law. It is a, I don't have the official title in front of me, but it is the law that now allows citations to be written based on the evidence provided by video of school buses. It was passed on December 26th by the the Massachusetts Senate, and it was signed into law by Governor Healy on January 10th, 2025, which we didn't realize. She put an emergency preamble in place, which means it does not have a 90-day waiting period. It is a law now, ready to go. Ms. Maria Cherie and the mayor and I had a conversation with Bus Patrol, so we are now going to start some conversations with them, bring some things back towards the school committee. The mayor has a little bit of work to do now with the city. He's going to be writing a resolution to propose to the city council. They need to pass that, work with the police department, how to work it into their processes and whatnot, and then they'll bring back to us. We're going to, for our approval, and the proposal that he works out with Bus Patrol, to, if they're the vendor of choice, to place cameras on the school buses. A few things we need to work out in that vein, but it's been a lot of hard work, specifically by Miss Maria Cherie. She was hoping to be here. She got tied up. She's definitely going to come by. She wants to. I'm gonna pass it along, but she's definitely going to come by and say hi to us all and thank you. She was very appreciative of the support that the school committee has given her, and the snowball effect from her workings. Bus Patrol is also working with the city of Boston, Salem, Worcester, and Springfield to also get laws into the books. This is a big thing to enable our law enforcement, and obviously the return of that is not just finding those that blatantly break the law, but it is also the student safety that take our buses, and I think we're going to be doing some great things with this program. So again, from Ms. Maria Cherie and myself, thank you for the support, and we're excited that to our contingency that helped pass this bill. Thank them as well. So thank you very much. Mr. Olympio, thank you for the time.
And thank you, Mr. Swanson, for all the work that you contributed to this as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And could I add something to that?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Dunn.
The president of the Mass Association of School Committee, Jason Fraser, put out a special message recognizing the PBD School Committee for the resolution which MASC used to force this issue on their side with the legislature, and they said that played a huge part in getting this passed, and that was how Framingham and Worcester found out about this work as well. So it really did help. Our resolution really did make a big difference, so thank you for pushing that through, and they wanted you to know how much they appreciated that.
Thank you for passing that along, and obviously, Ms. Reed did bring this forward to us, but it does take the mayor to help, stand up the subcommittees and get behind this, as all the news stories do reference PBD. Obviously, Ms. Dunn, appreciate you taking this forward to the I know all these initials. Too many initials. You know who I was speaking of, and I apologize for hacking that, but bringing that forward to them as well and getting the resolution passed, which did help with the snowball that got this passed. So thank you very much for everybody that was involved.
And one thing I would like to ask, would you speak with the mayor? When this is in place, it's going to generate a lot of money.
Yes.
And I'd like to see if that money would be able to be used to buy the cameras for more of the buses going forward.
So the program is we'll get into some details, and that's part of one of the things we have to work out is yes, it's going to generate some funds. What we do with that, how those specific funds are going to be utilized by the city. So we have an agenda item to talk about that as well. The mayor.
Thank you.
Again, thank you very much for everybody's support on that. Mr. Lampio, sorry. Good. All right. Athletics and wellness.
Yeah, I think the Student Advisory Council gave us that report, so that's all I have.
They did a phenomenal job at doing it as well. Quality and standards.
Nothing to report at this time. However, tonight, as you can see, we've got 2 issues heading to the subcommittee, so we will definitely be meeting about the funding for student activities funds and the graduation requirements.
Thank you very much. Liaison Parent and Student Advisory Boards.
Nothing to report tonight.
Buildings and grounds.
We met yesterday, and I think Dr. Vidala gave a good synopsis of that meeting.
Thank you very much. Special Education Subcommittee.
Yes, thank you. CPAC will be meeting via Zoom this Thursday, January 16th, and 7 p.m. Zoom. There's a guest speaker, Les Morabito. She'll be talking about managing challenging behaviors. Ms. Crompton sent out an email with the Zoom link to all the special education parents, so you should have received that. If you didn't, I would reach out to her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Liaison City Council and Legislative Delegation.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Redistricting Ad Hoc.
No report tonight.
All right. Performing Arts Subcommittee, I have a brief 2 points. Obviously, the Performing Arts had a phenomenal winter performance. I know that many people have been reaching out to me, telling me how well they've done with Hadestown. They are now in their winter concert and performances schedule, also preparing for a lot of competitions coming up in the late winter, early spring. And just so everybody remembers, this Saturday is Pancake Breakfast. So I expect to see you all there on Pancake Breakfast for the fundraiser. And that's the Performing Arts Subcommittee report.
Pancake Breakfast is at the Knights of Columbus.
Knights of Columbus, you're right, I apologize, I got excited on that one.
Yeah.
Knights of Columbus, I believe doors open at 8 a.m. for on Main Street.
$15 per person, unlimited, I think, all you can eat.
All you can eat, pancakes, bacon,
Maybe a little of
eggs,
entertainment.
sausage. Yep.
Yeah. 15.
Yeah, it's
And
You can drop 50.
tips and overpayment are accepted.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, filling that in. Thank you. Item number 9, new business. Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I requested this topic because illegal dumping is always a problem everywhere. We know that. But it's especially been a problem at the schools. And what I would like to do is for the school committee to send a request to the city council asking for a specific ordinance making it illegal to dump on school property and put in significant penalties, because we have to stop it. It is not only costing us money to dispose of these illegal items, but it's a safety issue. We have custodians who work hard to make sure that all of our trash is properly disposed of and secured, waiting for pickup. And then someone comes in during the middle of the night with a whole bunch of contractor debris from a bathroom that they've renovated, or, a pile of mattresses, and they dump them. The next morning, the custodians show up. They not only have to clean up a huge mess outside by the dumpster, if the people are courteous enough to head that way. Sometimes they just dump it where they want. But then they have to be able to do their regular job as far as emptying the trash from the cafeteria or classrooms, or whatever their daily duties are. And sometimes they can't. So I think that it would be appropriate to ask the council for an ordinance prohibiting this so that it could be prosecuted. So to that end, I would like to make a motion that we send a letter to the city council requesting their assistance in forming an ordinance making it illegal to dump on school property and impose fines. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. You heard the motion made by Ms. Dunn, second by Mr. Miko. On the motion, Mr. Miko.
Through the chair, Ms. Dunn, could you also modify to include the police department as well, to be at that meeting or to work with the city council?
Oh, the council would pull them in on that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mrs. Carpenter.
Thank you, through the chair. Mrs. Dunn, I definitely support this. Are you telling me there isn't already a law about illegal dumping on our school grounds already?
I honestly don't know. And I have a feeling that if there is one, it's probably very old and it's not enforced, and the penalties, I don't know what they would be. I honestly don't know.
I support it. I just can't believe that it doesn't exist.
I know. It may just be that, illegal dumping, it's illegal. It's
Right.
illegal
It's
to dump
it's illegal.
trash,
Yeah.
right. But I would like to see it specific with the schools. It's been a long-standing problem, and it is getting worse. And sometimes these are repeat offenders, which is really kind of disturbing to know that they feel no problem dumping.
Do we have a means of identifying them?
Mm-hmm. We have cameras. And I would say that if we can find out, if we can trace a license plate back, that we pursue it. I would like to make sure that we pursue it and that we do all we can to stop this.
Do we have any on camera now that can be identified?
I don't know. I'm actually trying to find that out.
Okay. I support it.
in
I just
general.
can't believe that it
I know.
we would start from scratch. There has to be something.
There has to be something, but it may not be specific on school property.
Yeah, well, this is a good step. Then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn.
And with the fines, that money could help pay for the disposal.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Mr. Hockman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Ms. Dunn. When you say that there are repeat offenders, are we able to identify who these people are?
Actually, neighbors to the buildings see the same trucks. So it's anecdotal, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
anecdotal.
No, that's what I thought.
But, there are
But if-
some things that are the same, like specific bathroom tiles keep showing up. Things like that. They know it's, the same person.
Through the chair, I think Ms. Carpenter's right. There's probably something on the books already, right? I can't imagine that, it's probably a trespass and then an illegal dump. And we have cameras already, and no one's, it sounds like nobody's prosecuting this, right?
Yeah.
So, it sounds like more of a prosecution issue than it does, it's an enforcement issue. It's not, from what I'm hearing, not the city's failure to enact an ordinance or I don't even know what the penalty is for this, so I don't even know if a heightened penalty is warranted, because I don't know what the penalty is. I don't want to push this over to the city council. Can we perhaps, bring in the police chief and talk to him about what they're doing or what they do to see if maybe, everyone's resources are stretched thin as it is, and we're creating more work. Either it's going to be for the city council or for the police department. And I understand what you're saying, Ms. Dunn, that we're footing the bill for people who are private citizens or people who are dumping, rubbish in our receptacles, and that cost us money. So I certainly understand and support getting something done. I just don't know if jumping straight to the city council is the way in which I would proceed. Because I think there is a law in the books. There has to be a law in the books. And I don't know if maybe the police department needs assistance in terms of enforcement, maybe cameras redirected or, higher resolution or something along those lines. And I'm happy to work with whoever it is that's going to enforce this to, again, help us save money. But if it's just a means of increasing penalties, I don't know enough to offer an opinion on that.
Thank you. Ms. Dunn?
If I may, I actually have a feeling that it's the same situation as passing a school bus. There was a law on the books. You weren't supposed to pass a school bus. It's in the manual that you get when you get your license. You know you're not supposed to pass a school bus with the flashing lights. And yet, everyone that's done it can't be prosecuted unless a police officer actually sees that take place. Now, thanks to the Peabody School Committee and Maria Sherry, we do have a mechanism where someone could be prosecuted for passing a school bus in the absence of a police officer with the use of video or camera photograph of a license plate. But up until now, that law was on the books and it couldn't be prosecuted. And I think it might be a similar case. And in the scheme of things, I know people think, oh, for heaven's sake, there's a lot more that needs to be taken care of. But it's the small things that actually add up and do make a difference. And it is something that's getting more and more prevalent. We as a school committee can't put penalties in place. I really do think it needs to go to the city council, if you don't want to ask them for an ordinance, to at least ask for a status on what can be done. Because if we do need an ordinance, they would be the ones to prepare it. And if there is an ordinance and it's not being enforced, or it's a $50 fine, that really needs to be looked at. And maybe it is an ordinance about all city property, but sometimes you need to specifically list city and school property. So I just thought that that was the best mechanism, to send it to the council for their action, their investigation and their action, and they can, fill us in on their decision.
Yeah, I agree. And in addition to that, if we could, through the chair, Dr. Vidala, in passing, if you could contact our police chief and see if he, through you to our school safety subcommittee, if he can set something up and maybe just give us some more details and information on that, and maybe just give us an amount on a fine, and if there is one.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was going to suggest not only the police chief, but city clerk might have exactly what the ordinance is today.
Okay.
And absolutely, I think you're hearing everybody standing behind it. So what do we have in place? How do we enable the police to enforce, and where might we need to modify?
Okay.
Like where we start?
All right, I'll amend my motion to request that we contact the chief of police to get that information to start the process.
Thank you.
Okay.
You all heard the amended motion? I got a second on it?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hockman. Roll call vote.
Mr. Hockman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the last item, number 10, items for next agenda. Our next meeting is January 28th, 2025. We will be having the reorganization meeting on that day, so please make the mayor and superintendent aware if you're not able to attend. Any new business, please submit through the normal process to Dr. Vidala and the mayor. And anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Excellent. Thank you very much.